Chuck,
What's happening, Neill?
I think I've run out of explainers.
No, never. That's never going to happen.
How do you know? What I tell you, and now you tell me no.
Because you're an inexhaustible source of information. So that's and people look to you to be that.
I don't want to be the source of information. I want to be the source of wisdom.
Well, you have that too occasionally.
Occasionally, okay. Well, all right. So it's the end of the year, and I could just talk about end of the year stuff.
Okay.
So should I do that?
Final thoughts on the end of the year.
Final thoughts. Okay. All right. So we lost Alex Trebek.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's sad. Pancreatic cancer. He lived a full life and an important life and touched so many people. So if you're going to die, make sure people that the world is a little different in a better way for you having been in it. And he certainly fulfilled that. So Alex Trebek.
The world looking for answers. He was the man who had all the questions.
Right. And the man who created a safe space for geeks for more than 3 decades.
True.
So, and even before it was cool to be geek, he was doing it. So
yeah.
But anyhow, just Christmas week, the days leading up to Christmas. Over that set of days, you may have noticed that Jupiter and Saturn were nearing each other in the sky, and they got really close. So close that if your vision is sort of okay, not entirely good, you would think they were one object on the sky.
Ooh.
They have not been seen to be that close to each other since the year 1226.
Really?
Yes. Okay. Actually, they were that close together in 1623. Galileo might have seen it. However, they got that close together, but they were near the sun, and so you might have lost it in the glare. So the last time it was dark enough to see it was 800 freaking years ago.
Wow.
So I told everybody about it. I hope people got to see it. And people say, they say, well, where do I find Jupiter and Saturn? They're right next to each other.
Yeah. Well, that's because everybody knows Venus because it's so bright.
Well, often mistaken for a UFO because it's a bright light hovering over the horizon in the different colors of twilight. Okay?
Right on.
Aliens visiting. So there's that. That was a nice little astronomical event to bring the year to a close. So then we have what's going on now. So these are the shortest days of the year in the northern hemisphere, shortest length of daylight. And so the sun is what heats Earth. So if on your way into the first day of winter, December 21st, you're getting less and less sunlight, chances are it's going to get colder and colder and colder, and that's what happens. That's why that happens. Okay? We have less sun. Not only is the sun not in the sky as long, the angle in the sky is lower. It's lower. All right. So here's something you might not have known. People talk about high noon. Okay. Those two words together imply, like, where's the sun at 12 noon?
Oh, that kind of high.
Yeah. Oh,
okay. Sorry. I was someplace totally different.
Okay. So you're thinking, like, straight up, right? And so on December 21st, the sun from the latitude of New York City, the maximum high in the sky it gets is an angle of 26 degrees above the horizon. Straight up is 90 degrees.
90.
Halfway is 45 degrees. Nearly half that again, 26 degrees. That's the highest the sun gets at 12 noon on December 21st.
Oh, wow.
So that's why things get colder. And the farther north you go, the lower the sun is.
Right.
And the shorter it is in the sky. My wife is from Alaska. Does someone just come up for a couple hours and then set again? And the rest of the day...
Everybody okay? Hi, it's me, the sun.
Just checking out.
Everybody okay? All right, see you guys later.
I just pop my head up. And then maybe just the eyes.
Okay, everybody good? Okay, I'll be back later.
If the sun could talk, that's what it would be saying.
Right.
And of course, the inverse of that is happening south of the equator, where in Alaska, depending on the day and what your latitude is, you could have 22 hours of dark and 2 hours of sunlight. The inverse of that is happening on that very same day in the southern hemisphere if you go very far south. So in the Arctic Ocean, Antarctic areas, you would have, in December, you'd have 22 hours of light and only 2 hours of darkness. So it's a symmetric ballet between what the sunlight and darkness is doing. And if it's always the opposite from one side of the Earth to the other, then what's it doing on the equator?
It's just there.
Chuck, that does not count as an authentic answer on a science quiz. F for that answer. Okay, the equator is the perpetual middle of everything.
Right.
Okay, so we have long days and short nights, and then short days and long nights, and the opposite on the equator is 12 hours of day and night every single day of the year.
Sweet.
They are the middle.
Doesn't matter, Joe. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, because everything is switching.
It's switching.
It's symmetrically on either side of the equator, north and south of the equator. So,
it's the fulcrum and the seesaw. Doesn't make a difference.
Oh, good. I like that. The fulcrum. Very nice. Yeah. Or if you're not physics literate, just the balance point of the seesaw. Fulcrum, you're showing off, Chuck. Okay, so now let's keep going. So we now go to New Year's Eve, December 31st. And then, by the way, we think... I don't mean to, diss the habits and rituals of civilization, but New Year's Eve, everyone is celebrating the moment that it hits midnight, but it hits midnight in 24 different time zones across 24 hours. So what you think is this special moment happening in some cosmic calendrical way is not. It's smeared out over all 24 time zones of the world. So, just relax, okay?
Wow, man. I can't believe you just ruined New Year's Eve.
I'm just saying, everybody count down to that last second, and in that second, then you kiss, and then you drink champagne in that moment, and then meanwhile... Central time zone is still 11 o'clock, and Mountain time is 10, and in LA it's still 9 p.m. Right. Okay, and in fact, we get New Year's moment first. Okay,
right.
LA, where they have New Year's Rockin' Eve, they have bands performing, and they're celebrating midnight for us because it's 9 p.m. there. All right, the people only just arriving for their nighttime activities. So the whole thing is a charade. It's a time zone charade. That's all. I don't mean to, to be like the Grinch, New Year's Grinch, but I'm just telling you.
I got you. I mean, I get it. It's a little Disney, like.
Okay. Okay. Now
they have New Year's Eve every night there.
Okay. All right. Now, speaking of ritualistic celebrations. In a few years before, Peter Jennings, the well-known ABC news anchor, he decided to do a 24-hour New Year's Eve-a-thon. Okay? And the way he was going to do this, he was going to start a 24-hour news broadcast at the first time zone that celebrates the new year.
Gotcha.
And he had correspondents in nearly all time zones delivering their story. And so he invited me in for several of those hours to comment on just the cosmic phenomenon that's happening. Okay? And so then we got to Europe because they get it 5 hours before we do. And this just kept moving. Then they went to Antarctica, where every year there's a stick that indicates the South Pole. And then they move it to the new location of the South Pole. And it's a big ritual. They all gather. Whoever's in the South Pole at the time, they gather.
All four of them.
All four people.
All four people get together.
and the penguins. They all just gone over. And by the way, so in Antarctica, in December, it's broad daylight. Okay? Because that's the opposite side of the world. And they're far enough south, the South Pole, that they have 24 hours of light. So it makes a good media moment. So there they are, and they're shifting the South Pole. And then now, as an educator, I care that people know what the hell's going on if you're demonstrating it. And none of them, they're all scientists, none of them explained why they had to shift the pole.
Right.
It's like, is something wrong with the Earth? Can someone please explain? Oh my gosh! What? Okay, so there's a reason for it.
Please,
okay,
because I don't know this.
You don't know this. Okay,
I did not know this.
So in this ritual, so you can get survey knowledge and guide. Okay, so they have to shift it because what we say is the landmass of Antarctica is beneath ice, glacial ice, and all this ice is moving. A glacier is a solid river, if you want to think about it in fluid terms. Glaciers are always moving. And so the glacier on which you put the stick over the year has moved. It has flowed towards its destination. And I don't forgot exactly where the South Pole point is going, probably directly towards the sea, the ocean. Okay? So they figure out what that is, they pick it up, replant it, and there it is for another year. That happens every year at the South Pole in Antarctica.
In Antarctica.
Yeah.
And happens every year for the next few years, in which case there will be no more ice.
Okay.
And we won't have to worry about it.
I'm particularly worried about Santa Claus up on the North Pole because there's no land there at all. It's just ice flows.
It's just ice, period.
It's not even ice flowing on land. It's ice, FLOE. It's floating icebergs, basically.
Right.
So any TV show, and I knew this as a kid, any TV show that shows Santa's workshop on the North Pole with trees and mountains.
Trees.
No!
Oh, man.
My boy is floating on ice. Thank you. All right. And that's why he needs reindeer to fly off his island, off his ice island. But anyhow, if I take you to the South Pole and we just sort of sit around the South Pole, you sit down and I sit down and the South Pole's between us and I say, Chuck, go north, my son. Okay. Which direction is that?
Oh, wow. Because we're any direction.
Any
right?
direction. So
Yeah,
it means get the
direction.
hell out of here.
Just leave. Just leave is what you're saying.
Yeah, on the South Pole, there is no east or west. There is only
right.
north.
Only north. Oh, wow. That's cool.
Right. And that's what that's what led to the old brain teaser. It's you tell someone to go 10 miles due north, 10 miles due east, and then 10 miles due south again. And you end up right back where you started.
Right.
Where are you? You're on the South Pole.
You're South Pole. Right.
Yeah. Because on the South Pole, if that's one of your vortices, what looks like making sort of direct right angles, they're not really right angles. You just mapped out a triangle on a curved geometry. And and this is something that Euclid hadn't thought about. And so in fact it's called Non-Euclidean geometry.
Sweet.
Yeah. So remember you learned parallel lines quote meet at infinity or whatever they never meet, okay?
Right, they never meet, but they meet at infinity.
Okay, two parallel lines on a curved surface, such as the surface of the Earth, have to meet. Okay? So the rules are different. All right? And the sum of the angles of a triangle come to 180 degrees. On a curved surface, the sum of the angles of a triangle are always more than 180 degrees. And in fact, you can make a triangle with 3 right angles. So it'd be with 270 degrees. So all the geometry is different. It's called non-Euclidean geometry. It's a great discovery that then Albert Einstein absorbed up into his general theory of relativity. It's very cool. Okay. But
now, if it's at the South Pole, it's called non-Chuck Nice geometry because you will never find my black behind at the South Pole. That's period.
That is true. I don't know. Is it really an ethnic thing? Okay, this is funny we say this because you're right. I've never looked at the South Pole and seeing people, I might say, gee, I wish I were there. That was just, it was never been a thought.
Exactly.
It's funny you and I say this because this distaste for extremely cold environments because Matthew Henson was black and he was with Robert Peary when they went and discovered the North Pole and first to go to the North Pole. And
but he didn't know where they were going.
Who didn't know?
Matthew Henson was just like, man, where are we?
No, but he actually established relations with the Inuits so that they could help navigate and know where they're going and how they're going to get there. So it was quite the collab of their thing.
Yeah.
So Chuck, one last thing I want to tell you, just as we close out the year. The first week of January, Earth, in its oval orbit around the sun, finds itself at its closest point to the sun. And it's called perihelion.
Perihelion.
Right. So I always wanted shirts to say Merry Perihelion, all right? Because it's that time. Right. It's still the holiday season. It's before the Three Kings Day, which is January 6th, which concludes the 12 days of Christmas from Christmas Day to January 6th, when the Three Kings arrived. Apparently not on the day Jesus was born, we are told, 12 days later. So I don't know what held them up. I don't know what the problem was. They had the star to guide them. You know, I don't know what the problem was.
Tough getting a cab.
The Ubers weren't running at the time.
Ubers were very difficult to find back then.
So
perihelion, right after Festivus.
So it's an astronomical time of the moment that we celebrate. Okay.
Wow!
Astronomers.
It's the most astronomical time of the year.
And of course, since we're closest to the sun, but in the northern hemisphere, it's the dead of winter. Clearly, our distance from the sun is not what's giving us our seasons, and the seasons come from the tilt of the Earth's axis relative to the sun, and that's a whole other explainer video that we could do if we wanted to. So that's all I got for you at the end of the year, Chuck.
Well, Happy New Year to you, and Happy Perihelion.
Merry Perihelion. And let's hope that 2021 does a little better for the world than the 2020 did. I don't like pandemics. I like to think we're beyond such things.
Yes.
And, the whole point of StarTalk is to bring a little science into people's lives and have them smile while they do it. And some of that science matters to your health. Your health and wealth and well-being and security. So, anyhow, that's what we do. Chuck.
Always a pleasure.
Happy New Year to you. And Happy New Year to all fans and supporters. And even if you're a casual listener of what we do here, hope you appreciate it and maybe even become a Patreon member. We love them, especially because Chuck praises the money they give us.
That's it. That's why I love you. Same reason I love my wife.
Oh, she's paying the rent.
She's still giving me money, man.
Because this comedy thing is still trying. You're still trying to make this comedy thing
still
work.
Trying to make it a comedy, but thank God for her.
Okay. All right, Chuck. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
As always, Neil deGrasse Tyson bidding you to keep looking up, especially in 2021.